Welcome class 11. Here we will start second part of chapter 5, the Ailing planet, the green movement's role. From the first part of the chapter, you have come to know that the author has called the earth to be the ailing planet. He said it is due to the insensitive exploitation by the humans for their survival and development, the earth has lost almost all its vital resources. With the drawing rivers, depleted and polluted environment, and deteriorated forests and greenery, the earth is going through a difficult time of its own survival. That's why it is called the ailing planet. That's why the branded commission, that is the international commission of taking care of the earth environment, it has raised the question, are we to leave our successors a scorched planet of advancing deserts, impoverished landscapes and ailing environment? Moreover, Lester R. Brown, he has also remarked in his thoughtful book, The Global Economic Prospect, that the Earth's principal biological systems are four: fisheries, forests, grasslands, and croplands. They all form the foundation of the global economic system. Let's now study further. In addition to supplying our food, these four systems provide virtually all the raw materials for industry except minerals and petroleum-derived synthetics. Virtually means nearly. Derived means obtained. Synthetics means chemical compounds or artificial man-made things. It is informed, besides providing us food, these biological systems provide nearly all the raw materials for industries except the minerals and petroleum-based synthetics. In large areas of the world, human claims on these systems are reaching an unsustainable level, a point where their productivity is being impaired. Unsustainable, that means that cannot be continued at the same level. Impaired, that means damaged or weakened. However, the demand of human beings on these systems is increasing to such an unsustainable extent that the productivity of these systems is being hampered. That means due to the excessive use of these resources, we are making and disappearing them from the earth. When this happens, fisheries collapse, forests disappear, grasslands are converted into barren wastelands, and croplands deteriorate. Barren means infertile land. Collapse, that means break down. Deteriorate, that means to become worse. The writer infers that the excessive demand has resulted in deterioration and depletion of the resources. That's why the fisheries have been now broken down. Forests are slowly disappearing. Grasslands are changing into the barren wastelands, and the croplands are becoming worse day by day. Nowadays, in the protein-conscious and protein-hungry world, overfishing has become quite common. In poor countries, local forests are being decimated in order to procure firewood for cooking. Decimated means reduce. Procure means collect. Here, the author informs that in the poor countries, forests are being cut down on the large scale to obtain wood for cooking. In some places, firewood has become so expensive that what goes under the pot now costs more than what goes inside it. Hence, nature has to bear great loss by providing these means of survival to the human beings. Since the tropical forest is, in the words of Dr. Myers, the powerhouse of evolution, several species of life face extinction as a result of its destruction. We have come to know from Dr. Myers that the tropical forest is the powerhouse of evolution. That means it is due to the existence of these tropical forests. There is the possibility of evolution of all the living beings on this earth, as they are the heart of the earth's evolution, where newer plants and animals evolve to the new adaptable forms. If these forests would be reduced drastically, then it will affect evolution as a whole, and thus many species of plants and animals will be rendered to be extinct and disappeared. That means if this process will continue, then nothing will be left on this earth. It has been well said, forests precede mankind, doesn't follow. Precede, that means come before in order or position. Here the author, he tries to spread awareness by saying that the forest have come into existence much before the coming of man on this planet. If they will disappear, then the desert will follow. The world's ancient patrimony of tropical forest is now eroding at the rate of 40 to 50 million acres a year, and the growing use of dung for burning deprives the soil of an important natural fertilizer. Inheritance, that means property inherited from father or ancestor. Eroding, that means gradually destroying or wearing away. Deprive, that means prevent a person from using something. However, it is explained the ancient inheritance of tropical forest is now constantly wearing away at the rate of 40 to 50 million acres a year. Also, the burning of dung is preventing the soil to become now natural fertilizer. That means the growing use of dung for the other purposes like combustion is now depriving the soil to get its important natural fertilizer. The World Bank estimates that a five-fold increase in the rate of forest planting is needed to cope with the expected fuel wood demand in the year 2000. According to the World Bank estimate that there is a need of five-fold increase in the rate of forest planting to cope up with the expected fuel wood demand in the year 2000. So it is suggested that there should be five-fold increase in the rate of forest plantation to fulfill and cope up with the expected fuel wood demands. James Beth, the president of the World Resources Institute, said the other day, we were saying that we are losing the forest at an acre a second, but it is much closer to an acre and a half to a second. Here the writer gives a reference of the alarming statistic presented by James Beth, who is the president of the World Resources Institute. He had said that we are not losing the forest at an acre a second, but this loss is much closer to an acre and a half to a second. That is quite shocking news. Article 48A of the Constitution of India provides that the state shall endeavour to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. Endeavour, that means to strive or to make effort. Here it is said that Article 48A of the Indian Constitution states that it is the duty of the states to make efforts to improve the environment and safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. But what causes endless anguish is the fact that laws are never respected nor enforced in India. For instance, the Constitution says that casteism, untouchability, and bonded labor shall be abolished, but they flourish shamelessly even after 44 years of the operation of the Constitution. Anguish means pain and suffering. Casteism, that means discrimination or difference on the grounds of caste. Flourish means thrive. Here it is explained that it is really painful fact that laws are never followed in a country. For example, casteism, untouchability, and the bonded labor, these are abolished from our country according to the Constitution of India. But still, these are followed shamelessly in many parts of our country. A recent report of our Parliament's Estimate Committee has highlighted the near catastrophic depletion of India's forest over the last 4 decades. Depletion means reduction or disastrous exhaustion of the things. Here the writer has given the reference of a report of Parliament Estimate Committee that was released in the year 1994. According to that, over the last 4 decades, from that time, India had lost forest at a harmful rate of 3.7 million acres a year. Large areas officially designated as forest land are already virtually treeless. The actual loss of forest is estimated to be about 8 times the rate indicated by the government statistics. Here it is mentioned that the large areas which are officially declared as forest land have now become treeless, and thus the actual loss of the forest is estimated to be 8 times the rate given by the government statistics. That means the situation is quite brimful. So we have to work to control over this problem. A 3-year study using satellites and aerial photography conducted by the United Nations warns that the environment has deteriorated so badly that it is critical in many of the 88 countries investigated. Deteriorated, that means to get worse. Here it is said, according to the 3-year study conducted by the United Nations using satellites and the space photography, it is warned that the environment of the earth has got so worse in the 88 countries that it has reached the critical stage. There can be no doubt that the growth of the world population is one of the strongest factors distorting the future of the human society. Distorting, that means deforming. In fact, the growth of the world population is one of the strongest factors which has distorted and deformed the future of the human society. It took mankind more than 1 billion years to reach the first billion. That was the world population around the year 1800. By the year 1900, a second billion was added, and the 20th century has added another 3.7 billion. The present world population is estimated at 5.7 billion. Every 4 days, the world population increases by 1 million. However, you will wonder to know the facts that mankind reached the first billion mark in more than a billion years. That was the world population in the year 1800. But by the year 1900, a second billion had been added. The 20th century has added another 3.7 billion population. The present world population is estimated now at 5.7 billion. That means every 4th day the world population increases by 1 million. That is quite alarming rate. Fertility falls as income rise, education spreads, and health improves. Thus, development is the best contraceptive. But development itself may not be possible if the present increase in number continues. It is mentioned that if there is development in the country, there is the best possible remedy to control the population. It can help in reducing the birth rate as the rise in income improve the education and health of the nation. But if the number of population will keep on increasing at this rate, it may not help in attaining any growth or development. The rich get richer and the poor beget children, which condemns them to remain poor. More children doesn't mean more workers, merely more people without work. Beget means give life to. Condemns, that means find guilty of something. It is known fact that in the developing nations, the rich are getting richer with their already accumulated wealth. But the poor are getting the children who are bound to remain poorer. In fact, they had this misconception that the more children mean more workers in the families, but they are creating the unemployment in the nations. It is not suggested that human beings be treated like cattle and compulsorily sterilized, but there is no alternative to voluntary family planning without introducing an element of coercion. Sterilized, that means to make unproductive. Coercion, that means the use of force. It is mentioned that we cannot sterilize human beings like cattle forcibly. But there is urgent need of controlling the population by introducing some element of force. The choice is really between control of population and perpetuation of poverty. Perpetuation, that means to make something continue for a long time. However, the writers suggest that human beings now have to make choice between population control and ending the poverty. That means we must have to now control the population to eradicate poverty from our nation. The population of India is estimated to be 920 million today, more than the entire population of Africa and South America put together. It is known fact that the population of our country is 920 million. That is more than the complete population of Africa and South America together. No one familiar with the condition in India would doubt that the hope of the people would die in their hungry herdsmen unless population control is given topmost priority. Hut means that is the collection of huts. Here the writer is suggesting that the population control should be given the topmost priority in a nation. Otherwise, the poor people would die likewise, hungry and starving in their huts with just a hope of improvement and development. For the first time in human history, we see a transcending concern, the survival not just of the people but of the planet. Transcending concern is the concern that exists for a long time, that used to pass down from one generation to another. So this was for the first time in the human history, the people have shown their deep concern about the survival and existence of this planet. Not only they're thinking about their self-existence. We have begun to take a holistic view of the very basis of our existence. It is for the first time in the human history that human beings have shown the transcending concern about the survival and the existence of this planet. Now, they are not self-centered to think only about their survival. We have begun to take a holistic view of the very basis of our existence. Holistic, that means considering the whole thing to be more important than the collection of the parts. Hence, we have now started to see our human existence with a comprehensive view now. The environmental problem does not necessarily signal our demise. It is our passport for the future. Demise means death. Hence, the people have taken the overall view of the very basis of life. They have understood to solve the environmental problem is our safe passport for entering into the future time. So, we don't have to scare about the dark future, but we have to think to solve these problems for providing the safe future to the coming generation. The emerging new world vision has ushered in the era of responsibility. It is a holistic view and ecological view, seeing the world as an integrated whole rather than a disassociated collection of the parts. Certain means to make something new begin. Integrated, that means closely connected. Dissociated means separated. Hence, due to this transcending concern about the planet has now started the new era of responsibility on the planet. It is this holistic and ecological view that has made the people to understand that consider this entire world to be an integrated whole rather than to see as a collection of separate parts. So we are all now thinking Earth to be one integrated whole. We are not splitting into the different nations, that only this is the duty of single nation to think about the conservation of the earth health. Industry has a most crucial role to play in this new era of responsibility. Crucial means important. However, it is suggested due to the sustainable development of the earth now, everyone has to play the equal role. Even the industry has the important role to play in this development. What a transformation would be affected if more businessmen shared the view of the chairman of DuPont. If more businessmen shared the view of the chairman of DuPont, Mr. Edgar S. Woolard, who 5 years ago declared himself to be the company's chief environmental officer. The writer has given here the reference of the great chairman of a prestigious company, DuPont. He said, this businessman, he has liked to declare himself to be the company's chief environmental officer instead of conferring the title of the chairman of that company. He said the same attitude is expected from the other businessman if you want the transformation in the thinking of the business class people. He said, our continued existence as a leading manufacturer requires that we excel in environmental performance. He mentioned that all the leading businessmen have to excel in the environmental performance as well. If they would consider this environmental care, certainly then only they can continue to exist as a leading manufacturer in the world. Of all the statements made by Margaret Thatcher during the years of her prime ministership, none has passed so decisively into the current coin of English usage as her felicitous words. No generation has a free hold on this earth. All we have is a life tenancy with a full repairing lease. Felicitous means well chosen. Freehold means permanent occupancy. Lease means temporary stay. In the concluding lines, the writer has now given the reference about the well chosen words of Honorable Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. That was Margaret Thatcher. Her no other statement had become so popular in the English language than these beautiful words about the earth. She had remarked that no generation has got the free hold on this earth. We all have got the life tenancy with the full repairing lease. That means the earth is not our property. It passes on from one generation to other with the hope that each generation will take care of it and pass it to the next generation with its resources intact. In the words of Mr. Lester Brown, we have not inherited this earth from our forefathers, we have borrowed it from our children. Hence, the chapter concludes with the beautiful lines of Mr. Lester Brown, who was the author of The Global Economic Prospect. He has rightly observed that we have to develop this feeling that we have not inherited this earth from our grandparents. We have to think that we have borrowed it from our coming generation. He thinks that present generation has no right to claim that earth is only their property. Everyone should understand they are responsible to leave earth for future generation in the same condition as they've got from their ancestors. Thus, we have got the good message from the author that earth is not a legacy as it is the borrowed wealth. So we have to take care of the earth's resources as we can neither overuse nor neglect the thing which is not ours, as we have to return them for the next generation to use them without any damage and if possible with further improvements and additions. I hope you have well understood the explanation. Thank you for watching the video.